Karen hated my giant toy truck. It was a real Humvee that towed her Porsche off my land. Have you ever met someone who assumed they knew everything about you, only to be spectacularly wrong? That's exactly what happened when Karen, my nosy neighbor, decided my pride and joy military-grade Humvee was nothing but a ridiculous toy truck, cluttering my property. What she didn't know was that her smug judgment would lead to a showdown that left her Porsche stranded and her ego in tatters. It all started on a crisp Saturday morning in our quiet rural neighborhood, where wide lawns and gravel driveways gave everyone space to breathe. I'd recently moved in, bringing with me my prized possession, a decommissioned 1998 Humvee, matte green and built like a tank. I'd spent years restoring it, tweaking the engine, and turning it into a beast that could tow just about anything. It wasn't just a vehicle. It was a symbol of my love for rugged engineering and a nod to my days as a mechanic in the Army. Parked in my front yard, it gleamed under the sun, a testament to hard work and grit. Enter Karen. She lived across the street in a pristine McMansion, her Porsche 911 gleaming in the driveway like a trophy. From day one, she'd made it clear she wasn't a fan of my unkempt Vibe-Me wildflower garden, my toolbox-strewn garage, and, most of all, my Humvee. It's an eyesore, she'd sniffed during our first encounter, tossing her perfectly highlighted hair. This isn't a junkyard, you know? I'd smiled politely, biting back a retort. Live and let live, right? But Karen didn't live and let live. She escalated. First came the passive-aggressive notes taped to my mailbox. Please remove your oversized toy truck. It lowers property values. Then she rallied the HOA, which, luckily, had no jurisdiction over my unincorporated land. When that failed, she took to confronting me in person, always with a smirk and a lecture about neighborhood standards. I kept my cool, figuring she'd tire herself out. I was wrong. One morning, I woke to find Karen's Porsche parked on my property, right beside my Humvee. She'd driven across my lawn, leaving tire tracks in the grass, and was snapping photos of my vehicle. I stepped outside, coffee in hand, and asked, "Can I help you, Karen?" She spun around, not a hint of guilt on her face. "I'm documenting this monstrosity for the county," she snapped. "That thing's a hazard, and I'm reporting you for illegal parking." I laughed. Couldn't help it. "Karen, this is my land. That's my Humvee. It's street legal, registered, and insured. You, on the other hand, are trespassing." Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't budge. "It's a toy truck," she sneered. "You're fooling no one with that wannabe military junk. I'm doing this neighborhood a favor." She climbed into her Porsche, revved the engine, and peeled out straight into the muddy ditch that bordered my property. The rain from the night before had turned it into a swamp, and her low-slung sports car was no match. She was stuck. Here's where things got interesting. Karen leapt out, furious, and demanded I help her. "You caused this?" she shrieked, pointing at the ditch like it was my fault. I shrugged. "You drove onto my land and into my ditch. Not my problem." But then came the twist. Old Man Jenkins, the grizzled farmer next door, ambled over, his pickup idling behind him. Jenkins was a legend in our area, quiet, no nonsense, and the kind of guy who'd seen it all. "Heard the commotion," he said, chewing on a piece of straw. "Lady, you're making a fool of yourself." Karen ignored him, now on her phone calling a tow truck. But Jenkins wasn't done. He leaned in and whispered to me, "Bet your Humvee could pull her out. Want to teach her a lesson?" I grinned. Jenkins knew vehicles, and he'd always admired my Humvee. This was about to get fun. I climbed into my toy truck, fired up the 6.2-liter diesel engine, and hooked a tow strap to Karen's Porsche. She was still yelling into her phone, oblivious, as I maneuvered the Humvee into position. The beast roared to life, its tires gripping the earth like a predator. With one smooth pull, I dragged her Porsche out of the ditch, and because she trespassed, towed it clear across my property line, parking it on the public road. The whole time, Jenkins was cackling, slapping his knee. "That's how you do it, son." Karen finally noticed. Her face went from red to purple as she realized her precious car was no longer on my land, but now vulnerable on the shoulder of a county road. "You can't do that," she screamed, storming toward me. "That's my car." I crossed my arms. "And this is my land. You parked on it, tore up my grass, and got yourself stuck. I just helped you out. You're welcome." She tried to argue, but Jenkins cut in, his voice low and firm. "Ma'am, you're lucky he didn't call the sheriff for trespassing. I would've." That shut her up. For a moment, I thought she might explode, but she just stood there, fists clenched, as the reality sank in. Her Porsche was fine, but her pride? Shattered. The tow truck she'd called finally arrived, only to find there was nothing to tell me. Humvee had already done the job. The driver, a burly guy with a beard, looked at my rig and gave me a nod. "Nice machine," he said, ignoring Karen's sputtering. Karen's campaign didn't end there, but it lost its fire. She filed a complaint with the county, claiming my Humvee was an unpermitted structure. The inspector, a no-nonsense woman who clearly dealt with Karen's daily, came by, took one look at my registered, road-ready vehicle and laughed. "This is a truck, not a shed," she said, closing her notebook. Karen's last-ditch effort was a petition to the neighborhood, but Jenkins and a few other neighbors shut it down. Sharing stories of her overstepping gapantly, she tried to bully others over their tacky mailboxes or loud lawnmowers. In the end, Karen's obsession with control cost her more than just her dignity. The repair bill for her Porsche's undercarriage, scratched up from the ditch, wasn't cheap. And the neighborhood? They rallied around me. Jenkins brought over a six-pack to celebrate, and the tow truck driver even asked if he could swing by to check out the Humvee specs. My toy truck became a local legend, a symbol of standing your ground against busybodies who think they own the world. Looking back, I could have escalated things, called the cops, pressed charges for trespassing, but I didn't. Letting Karen's own actions sink her was enough. My Humvee, that eyesore she despised, proved its worth in a way she'd never forget. It wasn't just a vehicle. It was a reminder that assumptions can backfire, and sometimes, the best revenge is letting someone's ego tow them into their own ditch. So, what do you think? Was I wrong to tow Karen's car off my land? Or did she get what she deserved? Share your thoughts. I am curious to hear where you stand on this one.